Otto the Great, born in 912 AD, known for his role as the founder of the Holy Roman Empire, and his reign as the German king from 936 to 973. Otto was instrumental in consolidating the Germanic states into a cohesive kingdom, strengthening the church's influence and establishing a firm control over the nobility, which he achieved through strategic marriages and military prowess. His most significant achievement came in the year 962, when he was crowned emperor by Pope John XII, marking the revival of the Roman imperial title in Western Europe and beginning what would later be known as the Holy Roman Empire. Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, it's good to meet you, and if you are returning, it's great to have you with me again. If you like what I do and wish to support the channel, links to the Patreon are in the description. Otherwise, like, comment and subscribe, all that good stuff, and let YouTube know that the video should get pushed out a little more. Thank you very much. Let's begin. Otto was born in the year 912, specifically on November 23rd, as the firstborn son to Henry the Fowler, the Duke of Saxony, and his second wife, whose name was Matilda, the daughter of Dietrich of Ringelheim, a Saxon count. Before this union, Henry had been married to Hathburg of Merseburg, also of Saxon nobility, but it fell apart in 909, and the marriage was annulled following the birth of Thankmar, Otto's older half-brother. Otto grew up with 4 siblings: Bruno, Gerberga, Henry, and Hedwig. The death of Conrad I, the King of East Francia and Duke of Franconia, on December the 23rd, 918, set the stage for significant shifts in the kingdom's leadership. Conrad, on his deathbed, influenced by Widukind of Corvey's account in The Deeds of the Saxons, convinced his brother Eberhard of Franconia to endorse Henry, Otto's father, as his successor. This was despite their previous conflicts and Conrad's weakening political position due to his ongoing skirmishes with German dukes like Arnulf of Bavaria and Burkhard II of Swabia. In the May of 919, and after much deliberation, Eberhard and leaders from both Saxon and Frankish territories appointed Henry as king during the imperial diet at Fritzlar, marking a pivotal moment where a Saxon assumed control over the kingdom for the very first time. Although Burkhard II of Swabia pledged allegiance to Henry swiftly, Arnulf of Bavaria opposed him, leading to his proclamation as king by the Bavarians. However, his reign was fleeting, as Henry soon defeated him in 2 military campaigns. In 921, Henry besieged Arnulf at Regensburg, forcing him to submit and accept Henry's rule. Although Bavaria managed to preserve some autonomy, including the right to appoint bishops within its church. Now back to Otto. Otto initially honed his skills as a military leader during campaigns against the Wendish tribes along the eastern border regions of the German kingdom. In the year 929, while engaged in these military operations against the Wends, or also as they are known, the Western Slavs, Otto's son William was born to a captured Wendish noblewoman. William would later become the Archbishop of Mainz. By this time, having secured his control over the kingdom, King Henry likely began planning for the succession, although there is no surviving written record of these plans. It is during this period that Otto is first referred to as king in a document from the Abbey of Reichenau. Meanwhile, Henry worked to strengthen Germany's external alliances, particularly with Anglo-Saxon England, aiming to bolster his reign's legitimacy and interlink the two Saxon powers. In pursuit of this alliance, King Aethelstan of England sent Henry two of his half-sisters, allowing Henry to choose whichever one he likes the best for Otto. Henry chose Eadgith, and she and Otto were married in the year 930. Congratulations. As Henry's life neared its end, arrangements for his succession were formalized at an imperial diet in Erfurt. Some of his estates and treasurers were allocated among his sons, being Thankmar, Henry, and Bruno. However, breaking with the Carolingian tradition of partitioning royal inheritance, Henry appointed Otto as his sole successor, foregoing the customary formal election by the realm's dukes. Henry the Fowler, suffering a cerebral stroke, died on July 2nd, 936 at his palace, the Kaiserpfalz in Memleben, and was interred in Quedlinburg Abbey. At his death he had united various German tribes under a single realm. Otto, then at nearly 24 years old, took up his father's mantle as the Duke of Saxony and the King of Germany, with his coronation following on August the 7th, 936. This was at the historic capital of Aachen. Now during this ceremony, conducted by Archbishop Hildebert of Mainz, Otto chose to wear Frankish attire, signaling his authority over Lotharingia and his succession to Charlemagne, whose direct line had ceased in the year 911. At his coronation banquet, according to the chronicler Widukind of Corvey, Otto had the dukes of the major German duchies, that being Lorraine, Swabia, Franconia, and Bavaria, serve him, illustrating their submission and endorsement of his kingship. Arnulf I of Bavaria served as marshal, Hermann I of Swabia as cupbearer, Eberhard of Franconia as steward, and Gilbert of Lorraine as chamberlain. Despite seemingly smooth accession, Otto's early reign was marked by familial discord. His younger brother, Henry, challenged his kingship, opposing their late father's plans and supported, according to the Vita Matildus Reginae Posteria, by their mother Matilda, who preferred Henry, having been born in the purple, as they say, during Henry's reign. Otto also faced resistance from local nobles. In 936, he appointed Hermann Billung as margrave over the northern marshes, which included duties like collecting tributes from the Palabian Slavs and defending against Slavic tribes such as the Lutiki, or Botrides, and the Wagri. This decision led to discontent within his own family. Count Wichmann the Elder, Hermann's brother, felt somewhat overlooked, despite his seniority and connections by marriage to the Queen Dowager Matilda. The following year, Otto's choice of Gero to succeed his deceased brother Siegfried as Count of Margrave of the border region of Merseburg further antagonized the nobility, in particular his half-brother Thankmar, who viewed himself as the rightful heir to the position. Arnulf, the Duke of Bavaria, passed away in the year 937, and his son Eberhard succeeded him. However, Eberhard and Otto did not get along. Immediately, Eberhard challenged the king's authority over the region of Bavaria, as stipulated in the peace agreement made between King Henry and Arnulf. Eberhard's refusal to acknowledge Otto's supremacy led to open rebellion. In response, Otto launched a military campaign in the spring and fall of 938, ultimately defeating Eberhard, exiling him from the kingdom and stripping him of all of his titles. Otto then appointed Berthold, that was Eberhard's uncle and a count in the March of Carinthia, as the new Duke of Bavaria. But it was under the condition that he recognize Otto's exclusive rights to appoint bishops and, of course, manage royal properties within the duchy. Concurrently, Otto had to address a feud involving Bruning, a Saxon noble, and Duke Eberhard of Franconia. That was a different Eberhard, also, by the way, not Eberhard of Bavaria. This was the brother of the late King Conrad I. After a Saxon ascended to the throne, Bruning refused to pledge allegiance to any non-Saxon ruler, which of course led Eberhard of Franconia attacking and destroying Bruning's castle at Helmern. Otto then summoned the feuding parties to his court in Magdeburg, where he fined Duke Eberhard and sentenced his lieutenants to the humiliating punishment of carrying dead dogs around town publicly. I know, strange punishment, but that's the Germans for you. Now, the tensions escalated further in 938, when Eberhard of Franconia joined a rebellion against Otto, alongside Otto's half-brother Thankmar, the Count of Wickman, and Archbishop Frederick of Mainz. During this uprising, Duke Hermann I of Swabia alerted Otto, helping him swiftly suppress the revolt. Although Thankmar surrendered at Eresburg, he was tragically killed at the altar of the Church of St. Peter. Despite Otto's personal grief over his half-brother's death, the killer got away and went unpunished. Following their defeat, both Eberhard and Frederick were briefly exiled, but eventually they were pardoned and restored to their positions by Otto. Subsequently, a second plot against Otto materialized, with Eberhard promising to support Otto's younger brother, Henry, in a bid for the throne, alongside Gilbert, the Duke of Lorraine. However, Otto's swift actions drove Henry to seek refuge with King Louis IV of West Francia, leading to a military confrontation that ended with Otto defeating Louis at Verdun. Despite initial successes in quelling the rebellion, Otto struggled to capture the main conspirators, until a decisive battle at Andernach on October 2nd, 939, where both Eberhard and Gilbert met their ends. Eberhard met his end in the battle, and Gilbert drowned in the Rhine while he was trying to flee. In the aftermath, Otto directly assumed control over Franconia, restructuring it into smaller counties and bishoprics, directly accountable to him, of course. He also made peace with Louis IV, recognizing his rule over Lorraine in exchange for marrying Otto's sister, Gerberga, to Louis. By 940, tensions eased as Otto and Henry reconciled through the mediation of their mother, leading to Henry's appointment as Duke of Lorraine. However, this peace was short-lived, as Henry, who was still ever as ambitious, conspired once more against Otto in 941, planning an assassination during Easter at Quedlinburg Abbey. Otto found out about this pretty quickly and thwarted the plot. He arrested and later pardoned the conspirators after their public penance on Christmas Day, thereby maintaining his reign, but continuing to navigate the treacherous waters of dynastic politics. From 941 to 51, Otto began to solidify his control over the German kingdom, often sidelining traditional noble entitlements in favor of appointing loyalists to key positions, thereby centralizing his authority. His flagrant disregard for noble lineage in favor of loyalty led to quite a few conflicts with the aristocracy, and he even managed to annoy his own mother with this. Well, he actually briefly exiled her in 947 due to her opposition to his policies, though she was later reinstated at court on the advice of his wife, Eadgith. Otto's reign marked a departure from the more collegial style of governance of his father, Henry the Fowler, who had seen the kingdom as a confederation of duchies and himself as primus inter pares, or the first among equals. In contrast, Otto embraced a more autocratic approach, viewing his authority as divinely sanctioned and employing the anointment of the church to underscore his sovereign right to rule a feudal monarchy. This shift disrupted the traditional balance of power and reshaped the internal dynamics of the kingdom, moving away from ducal autonomy toward a more centralized and imperial structure. Throughout his reign, Otto dealt with dissent through a combination of mild punishments for the nobility and severe repercussions for common rebels, maintaining control by integrating key vassals into his family through strategic marriages. For instance, his alliances through marriage, such as his son Leodolf's marriage to Ida, the daughter of the Duke of Swabia, helped secure his family's position within the empire's hierarchy. By the year 950, Otto had effectively neutralized all threats to his rule, evidenced by his son's ascension to the Duchy of Swabia and his nephew Lothair's rise to the French throne. Significantly, Otto also managed internal and familial politics with great skill, ensuring his lineage controlled vital duchies across the realm. This was seen when he appointed his brother Henry as Duke of Bavaria, after marrying him off to the Duchess Judith, consolidating power and ending their rivalry. By the time of his wife Eadgith's death in 946, Otto was already making arrangements for his own succession, ensuring that all major kingdom figures swore allegiance to his son Leodolf, thus securing an undisputed claim for his continuation of the dynasty. In France, The West Frankish kings struggled to maintain their royal authority following internal conflicts with their nobility, but continued to assert control over the Duchy of Lorraine, a territory also claimed by East Francia. In 940, Louis IV of West Francia attempted to assert his rights over Lorraine, basing his claim on his marriage to Otto's sister, Gerberga of Saxony, who was the widow of the previous Duke of Lorraine, Gilbert. However, Otto, the German king, did not acknowledge Louis's claim, and instead appointed his brother Henry as the duke. Despite ongoing efforts from both sides to exert influence in the region, Lorraine remained firmly under Otto's control. The relationship between Otto and the West Frankish kingdom was further complicated by familial ties, as both Louis and his chief domestic rival, Hugh the Great, were connected to Otto through marriage. In 942, Otto brokered a peace agreement, which included Hugh's act of submission to Louis IV, who, in turn, agreed to renounce any claims that he had on Lorraine. The peace, however, was short-lived. In 946, after Louis IV was captured by Normans and handed over to Hugh, Otto intervened militarily at the behest of his sister Gerberga. Although Otto's forces were unable to capture key cities like Reims, Laon, and Paris, he lifted the siege after 3 months. He succeeded in removing Hugh of Vermandois from his role as Archbishop of Reims and reinstalled Artald to the position. To address the governance of the Archdiocese of Reims definitively, Otto convened a synod in Ingelheim on the 7th of June 948, attended by over 30 bishops, including all of the German archbishops. The synod validated Otto's appointment of Artald as the Archbishop of Reims, who admonished Hugh to respect royal authority. It was not until 950, however, that Louis IV was fully accepted as king by his powerful vassal, with full reconciliation occurring in March of 953. Otto assigned oversight of West Frankish affairs to his son-in-law Conrad the Red, and later Bruno the Great, alongside his sisters Gerberga and Hadwig, who served as regents for their sons, King Lothar and Duke Hugh. This arrangement facilitated Otto's indirect control over royal and episcopal successions in West Francia. Bruno's military interventions in 958 in West Francia against the Reginivids in Lotharingia highlighted the personal nature of Ottonian hegemony, which diminished swiftly through Hugh Capet's rise to power in 987. Burgundy relations. Under Otto's reign, the harmonious relations between Germany and the Kingdom of Burgundy, initiated by his father, were maintained. Burgundy, which was once part of Middle Francia as per the Treaty of Verdun in 843, found itself in a bit of a succession crisis when King Rudolf II died on July 11, 937. His son, Conrad of Burgundy, with Otto's backing, successfully claimed the throne against Hugh of Provence, the King of Italy and Rudolf's primary rival. This solidified Burgundy as a crucial yet formally independent ally within Otto's sphere of influence, ensuring continued peace between the two realms. Bohemian affairs. In 935, Boleslaus I ascended to the Bohemian throne, but ceased tribute payments to East Francia the following year, breaching a treaty with Otto's father. This led to escalated conflicts, including a significant Bohemian invasion in 936, which was countered by Otto only in 950, after a prolonged series of border skirmishes. Finally, Otto besieged a castle held by Boleslaus's son, compelling Boleslaus to agree to a treaty to resume tributes. Boleslaus later allied with Otto against the Magyars at the Battle of Lech River in 955, and played a key role in quelling regional Slavic uprisings. The Magyars are the precursors to the Hungarians, by the way, if you weren't aware. Byzantine diplomacy. Otto cultivated a strong diplomatic relationship with the Byzantine Empire during Emperor Constantine VII's reign, which included frequent exchanges of ambassadors and quite lavish gifts. This period of amity was marked by Otto's attempts to forge marital ties with the Byzantine royal family, reflecting his ambition to enhance his imperial stature. Slavic Wars. Conflict with the Slavic tribes along the Elbe River intensified during Otto's reign. Following a notorious incident in 939, where Otto's lieutenant, Gero, massacred several Slavic chieftains during a feast, the Slavs were understandably upset and rallied an army in retaliation. Otto temporarily paused his ongoing suppression of his brother Henry's rebellion to assist Gero, successfully defeating the Slavic forces. In 941, Gero and a Slavic ally, Tugomir, orchestrated another assault, solidifying German dominance in the region. Tugomir, having secured his position by eliminating rivals, acknowledged Otto's overlordship, effectively integrating his lands into Otto's kingdom under the title of Duke. These events highlight Otto's foreign policy and military strategies, which significantly shaped the political landscape of his reign, extending German influence across Central Europe and solidifying his control over contested territories. Now, just to rewind it back a little bit, following Emperor Charles the Fat's death, I know, funny name, right? In 888, the once unified empire of Charlemagne had fragmented into several distinct territories, and that included East and West Francia, also the kingdoms of Lower and Upper Burgundy, and each one of them was led by its own monarch. The Kingdom of Italy also saw part of this division, and it saw its kings crowned as quote-unquote emperors by the Pope in Rome, though their authority rarely extended beyond the Italian peninsula. After the assassination of Berengar I of Italy in 924, the imperial title remained vacant until King Rudolph II of Upper Burgundy and Hugh, Count of Provence and ruler of Lower Burgundy, vied for control of Italy. In 926, Hugh defeated Rudolph, taking the crown for himself, and later appointing his son Lothair as co-ruler in 931. Thus, a peace treaty between Hugh and Rudolph in 933 led to Lothair's betrothal to Rudolph's daughter, Adelaide, consolidating peace between the families. In 940, Berengar II of Ivrea, grandson of Berengar I, led a rebellion against his uncle Hugh. With forewarning from Lothair, Hugh exiled Berengar II, who fled to Otto's court in Germany. Berengar returned in 945 with support from Italian nobles and succeeded in driving Hugh to abdicate. Berengar then became the dominant force in Italy, acting as a regent for Lothair, who married Adelaide in 947. And when Hugh died in 948, Lothar nominally ascended the throne, but Berengar retained real power. Lothar's death in 950 led to Berengar's coronation on December 15th of the same year, with his son Adalbert as co-ruler. Facing opposition, Berengar tried to secure his position by forcing Adelaide, the widow of the last three kings, into a marriage with Adalbert. Adelaide resisted and escaped imprisonment, seeking Otto's aid from her refuge in Canossa. Adelaide's plea for rescue and an offer of marriage reached Otto, who recognized the strategic advantage of the union for claiming the Italian throne. Things were about to heat up on the peninsula. In the summer of 951, Otto's son, Leodolf, preemptively invaded Lombardy, possibly to aid Adelaide or to strengthen his own political standing, or perhaps a little bit of both. Despite lacking local support and facing near defeat, Leodolf's campaign was salvaged when Otto's forces arrived. Otto's army received support from the Italian nobility, weakening Berengar II's position significantly. By September of 951, Otto entered Pavia unopposed, proclaiming himself King of Italy and assuming the titles Rex Italicorum and Rex Langobardum. He married Adelaide, solidifying his claim. After Otto's marriage, disturbances in Germany necessitated his return, leaving Conrad, Duke of Lorraine, and Otto's son-in-law as regent to manage Italian affairs and continue the campaign against Berengar. Back in Italy, facing a precarious military position with limited troops, Otto's regent, Conrad, sought a diplomatic resolution by initiating peace talks with Berengar. Recognizing the high cost a military conflict would impose on Germany, especially when facing threats from the Danes, the Slavs, the Hungarians, Conrad proposed maintaining Italy as a client state under German oversight. He offered Berengar a treaty that would allow him to remain king of Italy, provided he acknowledged Otto as the overlord. It wasn't a bad deal. Berengar accepted the proposal, and the two prepared to travel north to sign off and finalize the agreement with Otto. However, not everybody was happy. The treaty was unfavorably received by Adelaide and Henry. Adelaide, who was of Burgundian descent, but culturally Italian, had strong ties to Italy, having been its queen and having suffered imprisonment by Berengar for refusing to marry his son. And all of a sudden, Berengar was getting this good deal. Well, she was not impressed. Henry, the Duke of Bavaria, saw an opportunity to expand his own territories into Italy should Berengar be ousted, hoping to annex land south of the Alps into his duchy. This treaty thus not only failed to align with their interests, but also strained the already tense relationship between Henry and Conrad. Together, Adelaide and Henry sought to convince Otto to dismiss the peace agreement. Upon their arrival in Magdeburg, Conrad and Berengar were made to wait 3 days for an audience with Otto, an intentional slight that underscored the tension. Although Adelaide and Henry advocated for immediate rejection of the treaty, Otto decided to defer the decision to an imperial diet. At this diet, convened in Augsburg on August of 952, Otto required Berengar II and his son Adalbert to formally swear fealty to him. In exchange, Otto reinstated Berengar as the King of Italy under German suzerainty, assigning him a significant annual tribute and demanding the cessation of the Duchy of Friuli. Otto restructured this territory into the March of Verona, which he awarded to Henry in recognition of his support, significantly enhancing Henry's power and also the stature of Bavaria within the German realm. In the late 940s, Otto began significant internal policy reforms, strategically utilizing the Catholic Church's structure to bolster royal administration, paving the way for what would become known as the Ottonian imperial church system. Otto embraced his divine right to rule and positioned himself as the Church's protector, fundamentally intertwining secular and ecclesiastical governance. A crucial aspect of this reorganization was the placement of celibate clerics in key secular roles, particularly bishops and abbots, thereby reducing the influence of hereditary secular nobility. Otto's approach was to create a balance of power by appointing non-hereditary church officials to counteract the autonomous and influential royal princes. He conferred lands and the prestigious title of Prince of the Empire, or Reichsfürst in their tongue, to these clerics, ensuring that upon their deaths their offices would revert to the crown, thereby circumventing hereditary succession. These conditions rendered clerical elections largely ceremonial within the Ottonian realm, with the king populating the episcopacy predominantly with his relatives and loyal clerks from his chancery, who were appointed to lead major German monasteries. Otto's own brother, Bruno the Great, exemplified this dual secular ecclesiastical role, serving as Archbishop of Cologne and Duke of Lorraine from 953, alongside other key figures such as Archbishop William of Mainz, Otto's illegitimate son, Archbishop Adeldag of Bremen, and Abbot Hadamar of Fulda. Otto enriched these bishoprics and abbeys with substantial gifts, including lands and royal privileges like tax levies and military command, effectively elevating the Church's status above that of the secular duchies and binding its officials as direct vassals to the king. To further enforce the Church's allegiance and resource capacity, Otto instituted mandatory tithing across Germany, which I'm sure was very popular. He also bestowed upon bishops and abbots the rank and legal rights of counts within their jurisdictions, centralizing his control. This appointment process not only cemented his central authority, but also transformed the higher echelons of the German Church into an extension of the royal administration. Otto's strategy of appointing his personal court chaplains and bishoprics after service at the royal court exemplified this integration, with these chaplains often handling governmental duties through the royal chancery before being promoted to manage a diocese. The failure of Otto's Italian campaign and his subsequent marriage to Adelaide led to estrangement from his son Liudolf, who had felt quite sidelined. On Christmas Day 951, Liudolf hosted a significant gathering at Saalfeld, attracting key figures like the Archbishop Frederick of Mainz. During this event, Liudolf, feeling his inheritance threatened by his father's actions, plotted rebellion against his brother-in-law, Conrad, the Duke of Lorraine, who also felt betrayed by Otto's dismissal of his negotiated treaty with Berengar in favor of a more subjugative agreement. By winter 952, amidst growing discontent, Adelaide bore a son named Henry, sparking rumors that Otto was swayed by his wife and brother to father the newborn as his successor over Liudolf. This rumor intensified the dissatisfaction among the nobility, culminating in a revolt led by Liudolf and Conrad against Henry, the Duke of Bavaria, in the spring of 953. However, Henry's unpopularity due to his Saxon origins facilitated the rebellion among his own Bavarian vassals. As news of this uprising reached Otto, he moved to secure his position by retreating to the stronghold of Mainz, where Archbishop Frederick mediated an initial agreement favorable to the rebels. This treaty likely affirmed Liudolf's position as heir and recognized Conrad's Italian negotiations. However, Otto's return to Saxony saw Adelaide and Henry persuade him to annul this agreement, leading Otto to declare Liudolf and Conrad outlaws at an imperial diet in Fritzlar. His firm stance on maintaining control over Italy and securing the imperial title led to further escalation. He rallied the nobility of Lorraine against Conrad and intensified the conflict across Swabia and Franconia. In July of 953, he laid siege to Mainz, Liudolf and Conrad's stronghold. Despite a prolonged siege and growing rebellions in southern Germany, Otto initiated peace negotiations. During these negotiations, overseen by the Archbishop Bruno of Cologne, Otto's brother, the rebels insisted on ratifying the original treaty. However, provocations during the discussions led to a breakdown, and they all went back to fighting each other. Otto responded by stripping Liudolf and Conrad of their duchies and appointing Bruno as Duke of Lorraine. With the civil war ongoing, Otto faced additional threats from the Hungarians and Slavs, who were keen to exploit the internal strife to launch raids into Germany. By 954, the situation was dire, prompting Otto to seek a conclusive end to the rebellion. In the early days of 954, peace talks resumed, culminating in a reconciliation at an imperial diet in Langenzenn, where Conrad and other rebels formally made peace with Otto. Well, despite this reconciliation, Liudolf continued his resistance until he was besieged in Regensburg. After enduring a harsh siege, he sought peace, leading to a truce and eventually a full reconciliation, wherein Otto forgave Liudolf and restored peace to the realm. By December 954, At the imperial diet in Arnstadt, the civil war formally concluded, with Liudolf and Conrad reaffirming their loyalty to Otto, though they didn't have their former titles anymore. This tumultuous period concluded with Otto formally re-establishing his rule, appointing his son William as Archbishop of Mainz, confirming Henry as Duke of Bavaria, and managing the reassignment of other key ducal positions. The resolution of civil war not only quelled the immediate threats to Otto's authority, but also solidified his status as the absolute ruler of Germany, setting the stage for further consolidation of his power. Now, the troubles were certainly not over. During the chaotic period following the Hungarian invasions of Europe, Otto's German kingdom faced more challenges. In the spring of 954, as Otto grappled with Liudolf's civil war, the Hungarians were launching destructive raids into Bavaria. Although Liudolf and Conrad managed to protect their territories in the west, the Hungarians wreaked havoc in Bavaria and Franconia. They even reached the Rhine River. In 955, the situation escalated further, with yet another Hungarian incursion. This time, Otto was a little more freed up from the constraints of civil conflict, and was very much prepared to confront the invaders. As the Hungarians besieged Augsburg, defended valiantly by Bishop Ulrich, Otto rallied his forces for a decisive confrontation. The Battle of Lechfeld on August 10th, 955, saw Otto command a diverse army, including troops from Swabia and Bohemia, under Dukes Burkhard III and Boleslaus I respectively. Despite being outnumbered, Otto's forces achieved a significant victory. The battle began with a Hungarian assault across the Lech River, targeting the Bohemian contingent and then the Swabians. Otto responded swiftly, sending Conrad to reinforce the beleaguered units. Following a fierce melee, Otto's army drove the Hungarians back, disrupting their favored tactics and inflicting heavy casualties. Widukind of Corvey reported that in the aftermath, Otto was hailed as Father of the Fatherland, and even proclaimed emperor during victory celebrations. While the Hungarians were not pursued into their territory, the battle effectively ended their century-long incursions into Western Europe. That was how much of a beat-down Otto gave them. They certainly were not going to be coming back for a while. Simultaneously, the north had its own issues. Otto faced insurrections from the Obotrite Slavs. Led by Count Wichman the Younger, the Slavs exploited Otto's focus on the south to raid Saxony, prompting a severe response from Otto after his victory at Lechfeld. In October 955, Otto decisively defeated the Slavs at the Battle of Recknitz, cementing his authority and rejecting their offer for a tributary relationship in favor of direct rule. These victories were thusly celebrated across the kingdom, with church leaders attributing Otto's success to divine favor, reinforcing his divine right to rule. The year 955 was certainly a pivotal moment in Otto's reign, securing his control over Germany and diminishing the likelihood of future rebellions. However, the Battle of Lechfeld was not all celebrations. It also brought personal losses. Otto's son-in-law, Conrad, and his brother, Henry I of Bavaria, both sustained fatal injuries. Henry's death led to the appointment of his young son, Henry II, as Duke of Bavaria, and his mother Judith's regency. Liudolf was tasked with leading a military campaign against Italy, but he died of a fever in 957, further depleting Otto's family, with his first two sons by Adelaide also having died. By 957, Otto's third son with Adelaide, 2-year-old, also named Otto, was designated as the new heir apparent, shaping the future succession of the kingdom. The turmoil in Otto's realm intensified following the imprisonment of Queen Adelaide of Italy by Berengar of Ivrea in 950. Responding to Adelaide's plea for help, Otto marched into Italy in 951 and married her, effectively securing the Italian crown. In 952, Berengar was forced into vassalage under Otto through a peace treaty that confirmed his subservience and also stripped him of control over the March of Verona. The politics of the region shifted further after the deaths of Otto's son Liudolf in 957 and Henry. These losses, coupled with Otto's engagements in northern Germany, allowed Berengar to exploit the instability. In 958, Berengar attacked Verona and extended his aggression towards the Papal States and Rome. Very brave, prompting Pope John XII and leading Italian figures to seek Otto's intervention in 960. In preparation for his second Italian campaign, and of course to secure his imperial ambitions, Otto convened the imperial diet at Worms in May of 961, where he designated his young son Otto II as co-ruler and heir. The succession was solidified with Otto II's coronation in Aachen Cathedral. Otto then advanced into Italy, reaching Rome in January of 962, where he was crowned emperor by Pope John, thereby establishing the Holy Roman Empire. It was holy, it was Roman, and it was an empire. Well, some people say it wasn't holy, it wasn't Roman, and it wasn't an empire. But that's for another video. Anyway, of course, if you're going to crown Otto the Emperor, you need an empress, right? Thus, Adelaide was also crowned empress, and then they ruled jointly. The crowning was followed by the 962 Synod in Rome, which reinforced Otto and Pope John's mutual support through the Diploma Ottonianum. This agreement confirmed John's spiritual leadership and Otto's secular protection over the Church, while expanding the Papal States. However, the relationship somewhat soured when Otto's growing influence in Italy began to alarm the Pope, leading him to conspire with Berengard's son, Adalbert of Italy. Hard to get good friends, isn't it? Well, Otto wasn't going to take this lying down. He responded to these threats by capturing and deposing Berengar, after besieging him at San Leo in 963. Upon Otto's return to Rome and discovering the Pope's betrayal, he convened a council that deposed John and appointed Leo VIII as Pope, ensuring Otto's dominion over the papal seat and having one of his best buddies in power. Now, this series of events marked Otto's consolidation of power across Germany and Italy, setting the foundation for the real empire and redefining European politics into the medieval era. The establishment of the Archdiocese of Magdeburg further exemplified Otto's intent to extend Christian influence eastward and to commemorate his victories, particularly at the Battle of Lechfeld against the Hungarians, which was the real moment in the sun for him. After his departure from Italy in 963, Leo VIII, a layman pope, faced opposition from the Roman populace. They knew exactly why he was in the job, and they didn't take kindly to it. He was expelled in February of 964. The Romans reinstated the last pope, John XII, but he unfortunately died a few months later, so they elected Benedict V. Otto, who was still undeterred, returned to enforce his decision, and he besieged Rome in June of 964 until the Romans gave Leo his job back and exiled Benedict V. Well, by the January of 965, Otto returned to Germany, somewhat reassured of his control in Italy. However, the death of his frontier commander, Margrave Gero, in May of 965, prompted a strategic reorganization of the vast marchland. Otto divided it into 5 smaller territories, each governed by a margrave, ensuring tighter control and defense against external threats. Despite Otto's efforts, the peace in Italy was short-lived. Adalbert, Berengar's son, incited rebellion, challenging Ottonian rule. Thus, Otto sent Burkhard III of Swabia, defeating Adalbert at the Battle of the Po on June 25, 965, and reaffirming imperial authority. Now, it was during this period that Pope Leo VIII died, March 965, and by October, John XIII was elected, John XIII was elected as Pope, albeit he was very, very unpopular, as he had quite a lot of foreign backing. The Romans weren't stupid. Well, by December 965, after rescuing John XIII from his Roman captors, Otto was preparing for a third Italian campaign. In the August of the following year, 966, he made governance arrangements, appointing his son, Archbishop William of Mainz, as regent of Germany, and setting off to Italy, where he quickly restored John XIII to the papacy. Otto took severe measures against the leaders of the Roman militia that had deposed John, executing them all, and solidifying his influence in Rome, making sure they would not be trying that again. By 967, Otto had not only stabilized his rule in Italy, but extended it, receiving fealty from Lombard Pandulf Ironhead, Prince of Benevento. However, this expansion drew the ire of the Byzantines, leading to diplomatic engagements. Despite the Byzantine reservations about Otto's imperial title and his territorial ambitions in southern Italy, peace talks ensued, reflecting both parties' desire for stability. Otto's strategic matrimonial alliance came to fruition when the Byzantine princes sent Princess Theophanu to marry his son, Otto II, in April of 972. Yes, he had grown up a little bit by this time, marking a significant east-west rapprochement. The marriage celebrated in Rome not only enhanced Otto's stature, but helped settle the conflicts in southern Italy. After celebrating the marriage of his son to the Byzantine princess, Otto returned to Germany with his imperial family in the August of 972. The following spring, he visited Saxony, where he spent Palm Sunday in Magdeburg. It was here Margrave Hermann Billung, who had managed Saxony on Otto's behalf during his Italian campaign, received a reception akin to that of a king from Archbishop Adalberg of Magdeburg, highlighting some discontent with Otto's frequent absences from Germany. During the Easter festivities in Quedlinburg, Otto's influence and reach were unmistakably displayed. Theodemir of Merseburg chronicled the presence of numerous dignitaries at the assembly, including Duke Mieszko of Poland, Duke Boleslav of Bohemia, representatives from Byzantium and the Roman region of Benevento, as well as delegates from the Magyar, Bulgar, Danish, and Slavic lands. Later that year, envoys from England and Al-Andalus also made their way to Otto's court, further showing his extensive diplomatic work. After the Easter celebrations, Otto traveled to Memleben, the site of his father's death 37 years prior, and it was here that he began to fall ill, and then he felt a little more ill, and then he had a fever, and he was gravely ill. After receiving his final sacraments, he passed away on the 7th of May, 973, at the age of 60 years old. Not bad for the 10th century. Well, the transition of power to his then 17-year-old son, they grow up so fast, Otto II, was smooth and uncontested. That's right, no problems. On the day following Otto I's death, the empire's nobility confirmed Otto II as their sovereign. A grand funeral lasting 30 days was arranged for Otto, during which he was laid to rest near his first wife, Eadgith, in Magdeburg Cathedral. This marked the end of an era for Otto I, remembered as one of the most powerful rulers in Europe, the one who started the Holy Roman Empire. And it marked the beginning of the reign of Otto II. Well, thank you for listening. Gee, that biography just kept going, didn't it? But we had fun, didn't we? I certainly had fun. And I'm almost at 5,000 subscribers. You can't imagine the dopamine hit that I'm receiving every time I wake up and see it being higher. Really is something else. Now, I would like to thank my top-tier patrons. That's Stark Factory, JC, Jeffrey, and Susan. Thank you very much. And if you would like to visit the Patreon, you know what to do. Just go in the description and find it. Anyway, until next time, thank you once more. It's been a pleasure. And look after yourself. Good night, everyone.